Now, my competencies didn't change. My talents didn't change. What changed is how I looked at life. I took responsibility and accountability of where am I, and I started focusing on things that are within my circle of influence. I am an ordinary guy with extraordinary dreams. I come from a very small town, a town which was not even there on Google for quite some time. I have seen life with a lot of, which is mostly ordinary life without school, electricity, water for a very large part of my time. And I remember kids from my school would be sent out to different cities if parents could afford to get better education, far better infrastructure, so that they can have a comfortable life as they go ahead. And typical expectation from ordinary people was get a job, get settled, get married, have kids, earn enough to pay for the schooling and the basic life requirements, and in that process save a bit for retirement. So that's what was expected from people like me. There were very few who were born extraordinary, the toppers of the class and the go-getters. They were expected to also buy a car and a house. So that's how I have seen life. In fact, I remember my brother, he was sent to Delhi as young as he was just 11, 12 years old, because there was no school. I was fortunate. What happened is a new school came in, at least it was called an English medium school. So fortunately, I had to stay back. I didn't want to leave home that early. And did my 10th, did my 12th from there. I don't know how many of you can connect to this, but there were only three professions that I was aware of. You could be a doctor, an engineer, or a civil service aspirant. The fourth one was, of course, either you had enough money to not be working, or you choose to be unemployed. So I'm keeping that aside, but they were the only three professions that I was aware of. I chose to become a doctor. There's no reason, there's no science, but of the three, that just made sense to me. With that dream, with that aspiration, I landed up in Delhi. I prepared 1 year for medical entrance exams. It used to be tough. I still think it is a very competitive exam. 1 year gone, I didn't get through any of the colleges, gave it another year. Last paper of second year, I knew I was not going to become a doctor. My dreams were shattered. I had not possibly done enough. And with that in my mind, I came back to my PG. I had an uncle of mine, kind of a coach, and that's where my belief in coaching became started actually, or a softer sense. And I spoke to him. I said, see, the exam, the world is so difficult. Ordinary people can't survive. 3.5 lakh people, some 100 seats. How do you even think people can qualify? And I was full of excuses. The only thing I carried there was excuses. I was blaming my failure on every single thing which was outside my circle of influence. Now he heard me. He heard me for a very long time. And I'm talking about somebody who has the record of cracking the most difficult medical entrance exams at any levels. So whatever he was supposed to say or he would say, I had to take that, and it meant a lot. Now he asked me a question, and honestly that was a transformational question in my life. He said, Ketan, how many seats did you need? The answer was simple. I only needed 1 seat. But in my mind, I was fighting and I was complaining about everything which was beyond my circle of influence. The message that I got that day is that the world will keep on moving at its own pace with its own variable, and we cannot do anything about it. It is not going to come ever into a perfect alignment for us to prepare well, launch ourselves and get the best out of life. Not going to happen. Look back at your life, you know what I'm saying. It doesn't happen. Same guy, 3 years later, Delhi University gold medalist. I got through masters in most of the colleges in India just simply because of the score that I had got. I went ahead and did my masters in human resources, my MBA from one of the best B schools in India. Now, my competencies didn't change. My talents didn't change. What changed is how I looked at life. I took responsibility and accountability of where am I, and I started focusing on things that are within my circle of influence. The biggest mistake that we do is we link ourselves a lot to external environments. How is this even relevant? This is exactly what is happening right now. If you look at, suddenly the corona spread has told us that our dependencies on a lot of external things is something which is always going to be beyond our control. How do we respond to this situation will define who we become and where we are headed. Now, this lockdown has been personally challenging for a lot of people. I coach people and I also interact with people because as my profession, I'm in human resources, I get to interact with people. People are going through various emotional challenges right now. I will share with you 9 ideas, hacks, recommendations, whatever you may call, or learnings which you can use to focus on your own growth. This is the time, this is an opportunity, this is a situation that can happen again in our lives. Why am I so prepared for this situation? Something similar happened to me almost 4 years back. I joined a startup. I spent about 4 years there. We were a homegrown company, bootstrapped, amazing aspirations, amazing business. We were taking products from local vendors within India and delivering it to customers outside. Our effort was to raise funds while we were growing. We were using our own fund to sustain our growth. Our aspiration was to really make it big. We got some term sheets towards the end of 4th year, but for reasons, the promoter and the promoter family decided to continue without any investment. That clearly meant that a lot of people like me who were taking care of certain functions were needed. It wouldn't have been right for my growth or company growth. And one fine day, I also didn't have an office to go. This is similar to a situation. So what COVID is, again, an external factor for me. This was again beyond my control. Now, after 10 years of career working with startups, high-paced organizations, it was not easy. That shift, for initial few days, it was like a vacation. But the experience that I had over those 3-4 months was life-changing. And most of my learnings I drew from there. And I am using it, I'm seeing it right now working for me and for almost hundreds of people that I've been coaching. Here is my first learning. 10 years, great career, a lot of functional work that I've done. I delivered one of the best HR outcomes for sure. And some of our work, my team's work got recognized in the great places to work and here and there. So I thought, okay, here is a guy, good pedigree, young guy is come in the market. And I thought that the market is going to jump and grab me and give me a job that I want. And with that, I started reaching out to people, sending emails, applying. But there's not a single conversion that I got in initial 2 months. Forget about interviews. Even resumes getting shortlisted and then after resume interviews and all. And I went in for a learning of my life. Now, when I look back, what I realized is that while I'd done functionally really well, I had almost zero investment in my own growth. 10 years of my career, one book is what I had read. So personally, I had not grown. Functionally, I had been a rock star. Personally, I had not grown. This is what happened, and this was the first and the biggest learning for me. Investing in your personal growth is super crucial. Even more relevant because what happened with me is that I thought organizations are supposed to take care of this. But I forgot that this is my life, this is my career. Now, this is the question I'm leaving with each one of you. Organizations would do whatever it takes to take care of their people. They will help people grow. But what are you doing about your personal growth? Do not leave that to chance. That's my message. Look at your last 12 months and answer this question for yourself. How much time and money have you spent on your personal growth? Reading books, investing in certifications, programs. Now, what I did is, after this had happened, next 3 years, I finished 36 books. Not saying it's a great number of books, but from 1 to 36, that was a push. I've not been into reading. I completed 3 certifications, self-funded, self-financed, and I realized that's a passion, something that I wanted to pursue in my life. I've worked 6 days a week. I've been in retail, so for a large part of my work, despite being in HR, a lot of my weekends would used to go in work because that's when the stores and all would be mostly operational. So 10 years, for a workaholic, I think it was a blessing. I enjoyed working. I burnt in a lot of time, and my work has been a very, very integral part of my life. Now, after initial 8-10 days of kind of a vacation, after this break, I realized that my entire habits are going for a toss. I would sleep anytime, I would get up anytime, and I started realizing that I am losing my life. I am not in control of my life. Something, if you have traveled internationally to a very, very distant part of the world, we talk about this concept of jet lag. I think something similar happened with me. So that's the second biggest learning that I got. Do not change or let your daily discipline get impacted by more than 20%. Retain your 80% of daily and weekly discipline, especially in work from home situation when you're not going to work. I don't know, it may sound crazy, but when this work from home started, I used to get up in the morning. I would get fresh as if I'm going to office. I will wear proper good clothes, which typically I would do when I'm going to office, and I'll go and sit on my place in my house and start working. I carved out a special space for me. And my kid asked that when you don't have to go to office, why are you even taking bath or getting ready and wearing office clothes? But for me, that was important because I had learned that do not let your daily discipline, daily schedule change much. 20% understandable, but 80% has to be exactly what it has been there. You have to figure out hacks to do it. Now, if you're used to get up at 5 or 5:30 or 6 or 7 in the morning and run, figure out a different way how you can still tell your body and your brain that you're still physically active. Have this need to be in control. As humans, autonomy is extremely important. Sense of control is extremely important. Do not let this impact. So that's the second learning that I had. I got into a rhythm after initial few days, and it helped me sail through that personal challenging time that I went through. I started going to the market after I wanted to search for a job. So I just drew down and created a list of people I could speak. Interestingly, because those 10 years, the only thing I did was work, I had only 2 contact lists in the HR space who could possibly help me connect to a job. One, the bunch of people who were there in my college, in my post-graduation days, because that's a group that you connect differently with. Unfortunately, they were not in influential roles and positions at that stage in the career so that they can help push my resumes or make it land at the right place. Now, the second set of people I had is only the 2 organizations where I'd worked. One was a large organization, so there were few senior HR folks there. In the second organization, I was the senior most HR guy, so I didn't even have a contact there. That is the moment I realized how crucial, how powerful it is to have that human connect. I had completely for 10 years ignored this particular part. I was so busy focusing on my work and crafting my work that I ignored the world outside. And because I never thought these things could change. I thought this is permanent, the organization will get the funding, it will move ahead in the direction. But that moment when things which are beyond your control just move out of the window, it leaves you into a very, very different space. So the third learning that I picked up at that point was personal connect. Here's a thought for you guys. 5 minutes, 5 people every day. If you could just start calling them and just on a human connect. It's not about work, it's not about anything but a hi, hello. If you could do that, I'm assuming each one of you would have at least 1,000 to 1,500 contacts in your phone. I'm not saying drop a message or WhatsApp. I'm saying pick up the phone and build that human connect. Second, get active into forums which drive a point of view in the function and the industry that you operate. It is that networking is super crucial. One, you are driving a point of view, you're contributing to the industry. Second, you build relationships and connects, which is going to help you in future for sure. So that's the third learning, human connect. Do not ignore that. make sure that you do something, either 5 people, 5 minutes for every single day starting today, or, and in fact not or, get into digital social groups, actual group. There are a lot of webinars happening. Are you there? Are you a part of this conversation? Don't think about, do I have a point of view or not? A lot of people want to hear experiences. Just go ahead, connect with people in the right forum, things that matters to you, and build your network. Most of the time we don't do anything because we give ourselves excuses. Now for 10 years there are two things that I wanted to do. One, improve my health. I wanted to do at least a 30-minute workout and meditation. I've been hearing about it. And the second thing that I wanted to do was on books I've essentially spoken about. Now, for initial 10 years, I had a lot of excuses that I don't have time, I'm busy, kids, family, everything. I'm doing a lot of these things, so I will do it when I get time. Now that excuse was gone. The only thing on planet Earth that I had was time. I was able to spend time with my kids, with my wife, with my family, and now on myself. I pushed myself. It was not easy. It took me at least 1.5 months to come to a basic discipline. For my body, suddenly it was a new thing. For my mind, it was suddenly a new thing. But I pushed myself. It's been 4 years, 4.5 years. I have been 95% consistent when it comes to my daily workouts, including meditation and reading books. If I don't read for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, my day is almost incomplete. If I don't spend that 30 minutes in the morning on myself, physical exercise and meditation, I feel something is missing. That is the power of habit. Once I started my career back, not that my work was lesser, but when something becomes a part of your life and your habit, you start finding time for it. So my fourth lesson that I learned, and the idea that I'm sharing with you guys, is pick up a new habit. There are habits, there are things that you've been wanting to do for quite some time. If this is the time you won't do it, trust me, you will never do it. There's a golden question that I have been hearing at least till the time I've been in HR. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Initial years after MBA, I would actually write down scripted, pick up these answers from the best of the answers on the internet and craft something. And you just go ahead and talk about that in the interviews. So this golden question that each one of us get asked in the interviews has very, very powerful meaning. You look at the organizations that you have worked. The organization has a vision, has a mission, has a goal. It translates into OKR, it translates into KPIs. We do a lot of those for organizations, but we're not conditioned to actually do this in our personal life. The reason is simple. We have been conditioned from our childhood that our education, our learning has to be taken care by somebody else. Schools decide what do we study, colleges decide what do we study, post-graduation decides what do we study. You come to organizations, your HR, your manager, your talent partner would decide what you become, what you learn, how do you learn, and what's your next goal. I'm saying it is important, it is extremely crucial, but what is your life's goal? If you don't have a goal, it's going to be difficult for you. This is the time, this is the moment, this is the opportunity for you to craft out, if not 5 year, at least your next 1 to 2 year goal. There are multiple ways to do it. You would have learned a lot of that within your organizations through goal setting process. Just pick up any format and go ahead and do that. Reiterating the point, if you don't know where you have to reach, you will never reach there. Don't leave your career, don't leave your personal growth to chance. Say, how many of you had in this December or January, picked up a New Year resolution of doing something? Data says 80% of the resolutions fail in the initial 10 days. The multiple reasons, it's not specified, it's not put well. I'm not going to talk about that. But here is an opportunity for you. Why don't you pick that resolution that you picked up or something you wanted to do, recraft it, redefine it, reignite it, re-energize it, and make it work. There's no reason why it can't work, but if you had said something, make sure that it happens. It is your life. Do not leave it to chance. That's the piece that the next lesson that I learned, this is not a learning that I picked up from my experience, but it's an extrapolation of what I just talked about, your own goals. This is the time a lot of organizations would go through an annual performance discussion. For me, at least, what used to happen is, especially in larger organizations, there is a mail somebody would send, or system would send, or HR would send that please go ahead and have your conversation with your manager. 2007, my first boss, my first appraisal, fresh out of college, I went, I said, so tell me boss, how did I do? He said, no, this is not how it is going to happen. He gave me a 5-pager form. It was called job chat form. He told me, please go fill it and come back. I didn't abuse him, but I was just like, what kind of manager is he? He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't know what have I done. I had every wrong thought in my head. I thought he was trying to ignore those conversations. I did that form very diligently, and I had one of the best conversations, performance conversations ever. You know why? Because the ownership of assessment was on the learner and was not on the manager. So if you guys have not started that formal conversation, or even in future, do not wait for your manager or HR to trigger the self-assessment. You know what you have done. It's most important for you to believe who you are, how you are doing, and where you essentially are headed. Organization system can never be perfect. There would be a human judgment, but you would know what you have done and where you want to go. Point number 6, do your self-assessment. It's extremely powerful. Do not ignore the power of self-assessment. And this is not about today. You know, the topic of this conversation is about how do you drive personal growth in these times. Once you build these habits, the external situation is not going to impact your personal growth. And it is extremely, extremely powerful. I'm telling you as an HR guy, and I'm telling you as a coach, it is transformational. Brings me to my 7th learning that I had. Kids do not get tired. They're full of energy. Have you ever thought or understood what actually gives them that energy? Tiredness is not physical. Trust me, for most of us, going to office, sitting in office and working and coming back and having our food, it cannot be physically tiring. It is all about mental tiredness. I'm bringing the concept of flow or ikigai here. It's a very famous book right now out. If you guys are into book, you can pick that up. When kids are focused on doing something, the only thing they're focused on is in that particular work, in that particular movement. They are in the flow. Now, when we are in flow, we do not care about anything else in the world. And not that it happens only to kids. Each one of us have these hobbies or passions. When we do those things, we think that the world is completely come to a stop. And we can go days without even considering or thinking about anything else in life. But what happens as we grow up, especially in work context, we shift our focus from there to very, very routine activities and a lot of work. I call these as power shots. Every day, do you do something, even for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that brings you into that flow, that brings you in that moment where you are on your own. The entire concept of mindfulness is very similar to this. You are into what you are doing and you're doing what you love. Find those places. It could be sports, it could be creativity, it could be song, it could be music. But telling you 10 years did nothing of that, but I realized that was the most important thing that I needed in my life. Fortunately, at that same time, a few months back, close to a year, I bumped into a book called 5 a.m. Club. I thought it was next to impossible, but it's been a year. I get up actually at 5 a.m. and do a lot of things that gives me that power and the energy of doing things that I believe in. And I just enjoy those moments. The day I'm delayed, something seems to be missing. So push yourself, identify those passions and those ikigai movements and the flow movements for you, and pursue them. Work can go up and down. Passion is something that drives you throughout your life. Do not let your hobbies or passions or ikigai or flow die. Do not do that. You will see the power of it. You will be so productive, so energetic that you have never ever imagined. Per se from that instance, but as a coach, this is a message that I want to give you guys. I don't know how many of you invest time in self-awareness. I've done that a lot. Fortunately, as HR professional, I was supposed to do it. A lot of psychometric assessment tools. I tried it on myself. And of course, being a coach, I went through this particular process. It is life-changing. Unless until you know who you are, what is your life purpose, what do you want to do, what drives you, what motivates you, you will not be able to create this influence for others. Invest in your self-assessment. It is the single biggest powerful thing you can do for you. And I've been fortunate to work with the best and the best names in the industry. Really fortunate. Very closely I've watched them. This is one thing I've realized about each of those people who are change makers. They are extremely self-aware. If you're into books, autobiographies, pick any autobiography, you'll realize each one of them have been self-aware to the extent nobody can imagine, because they believe in the power within themselves. It's not about perfection, it is about awareness. All these 8 that I spoke about may be irrelevant if this doesn't happen. Any guess what this could be? Action. Nothing in life moves if you do not take action. Every dream, every aspiration, everything that we want to do is a waste if we don't take an action. 99% of the time, and because I've been speaking people, coaching people, and there's a data validation to this, 99% of time, and this is going to happen in this group also, pardon me for that and don't take it in a message, but as a coach, this is something that I'm supposed to do. 99% of you would have picked up few points which I would have ignited a thought in your head, but you will forget about this in a day or two and you will say, okay, I will do it when the right time comes, when I have enough time, when I have enough money, when I have enough bandwidth, enough. That's the first excuse our brains are going to give to us. Only 1% of people take action. It's not going to be easy. It's simple, but it is not easy. This is the saying that I have for human behavior. And it is okay to be in 99%, but it is not okay to not move from that 99% to 1%. And hear me out. The law of inertia also applies to human behavior. The first step is the most difficult step. Take a small step, but take it now. Trust me, just go ahead and take that action. If you don't take an action, nothing is going to move. There would never be a perfect time, perfect situation where the world is going to wait to give you an opportunity to go ahead and fulfill your dreams. So quick recap on the 9 points. 1, focus on your personal growth. This is the first learning that I got. Second, do not let your daily discipline deviate more than 20%. Extremely crucial. Third, human connect. Build your network. Speak to people that you haven't spoken. They all would come handy in future. Build that human connect today. Start 5 people, 5 minutes starting today. You have an option to do that. Fourth, build new habits. That habit that you've been procrastinating for very long time. This is the time, this is the movement to take that first step. Start small, but build that habit that you have been willing to and wanting to do that. There's no better time than this. Fifth, make those personal goals work. Look at your resolutions, look at the goals that you picked up, create new goals, but have a personal goal and make them work. You have to reach a destination and a dream that you wanted for yourself. Fifth, self-assessment is extremely powerful. The ownership of learning has to be with the learner and not with the manager and not with the organization, not necessarily with the HR. They will follow a process, but self-assessment is for your own growth. Do not wait for the organization and system to take a call on that. Number 7, passion, ikigai, flow. Find that out. Build that in your life. it will shift your productivity to levels that you have never ever imagined. That was point number 7. Point 8, awareness. Self-awareness. Invest time, feedback systems, speak to people, coaches, assessments, many of those available, but be self-aware, understand who you are. And the 9th and the most crucial, actionability. None of these are going to work if you decide not to take an action. Remember, there's only one career that each one of us has. We can leave it to chance, or we can make it a choice. That's when extraordinary results would start coming. I've seen that, I believe in that, and I promise it's going to happen. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience. If there are questions that I can help, happy to take them for a few minutes.